10 Betrayal Trauma. The signs. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it obliterates you. It doesn't simply break your heart, it dismantles the foundation of everything you once believed in. One moment, you think you know someone. The next, you realize they were nothing but a carefully constructed illusion. And the worst part? You didn't just lose them, you lost yourself. Betrayal trauma is not just a bad breakup or a disappointment. It's a psychological car crash that leaves you bleeding on the side of the road, wondering what the hell just happened. It rewires your brain, infects your thoughts, and leaves you questioning every decision you've ever made. Did I miss the signs? Was I blind? Or was I just stupid? You stop trusting others. You stop trusting yourself. You become an investigator in your own life, replaying every memory, dissecting every conversation, searching for the moment everything went wrong. And even worse, you start believing that you were never worth loyalty in the first place. But let me be clear, this is not your fault. The betrayal says everything about them and nothing about you. What do you do now? Do you let the pain turn you bitter? Do you let it shape your future? Or do you reclaim your power? First, you must understand what's happening to you. This isn't just heartbreak, it's a full-scale mental and emotional war. And you deserve to win. Here are 12 brutal, undeniable signs of betrayal trauma. If you see yourself in them, know this: you are not alone, and you will rise again. If you're ready to stop being a victim and start rebuilding your strength, like, share, subscribe, and comment, I choose to heal. Now let's begin. Number 1, the never-ending mental replay, rumination. Betrayal doesn't just hurt in the moment, it locks your mind in an endless replay loop, forcing you to relive the pain over and over again. Even when you try to move on, your brain drags you back, whispering, "Did you miss something? Were there warning signs? How could you have been so blind?" Jack thought his marriage was solid, until one day he found a message from someone his wife shouldn't have been talking to. At first he told himself it was nothing, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Every past memory suddenly became evidence. The nights she came home late, the sudden change in passwords, the times she laughed at a text but wouldn't say from whom. Now those moments haunted him. Jack couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think about anything else. His brain refused to accept what had happened, so it kept running in circles trying to make sense of it. Then there's Sarah. She worked at a company for 8 years, dedicating her time, skipping vacations and going the extra mile, only to be abruptly fired one morning. The reason? A co-worker she trusted threw her under the bus. She replayed every meeting, every conversation, wondering what she could have done differently. Maybe if she had been more careful, she wouldn't have been blindsided. Maybe if she had been more ruthless, she wouldn't have been used. This is betrayal trauma at its most vicious. Your brain believes that if it just thinks hard enough, it will find the missing piece that makes everything make sense. But the truth is, there is no missing piece. The betrayal wasn't your fault. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." Rumination keeps you trapped in suffering by making you relive a reality that no longer exists. So how do you stop the loop? First, interrupt the pattern. Every time you start obsessing, say, out loud if needed, "Stop. This thought does not serve me." Then immediately do something active. Stand up, take a cold shower, go for a walk. Second, write it down. Instead of keeping the thoughts swirling in your mind, write them in a journal. Once it's on paper, your brain doesn't feel the need to replay it as much. Third, set a worry window. Give yourself 10 minutes a day to think about the betrayal. When time's up, force yourself to move on with your day. Over time, your brain learns that it doesn't need to obsess all day long. And finally, shift the focus. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, how can this make me stronger? You can't change what happened, but you can stop letting it control you. The past is over. The only question left is, how much more of your future will you let it steal? Number 2, emotional numbness. When feeling nothing hurts more than pain. Betrayal doesn't just break you, it shuts you down. You don't just feel hurt, angry, or sad. You feel nothing. The world moves around you. People laugh, talk, live their lives, but inside you're hollow. It's like someone turned off the switch to your emotions, and now you're just existing. Emma used to be the life of the party, always the first to crack a joke, always the one lifting others up. But after discovering her fiancé had been cheating for months, something inside her shut down. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't throw things like in the movies. Instead, she just sat there, staring at nothing. The next day, she went to work, answered emails, had conversations, but it was like watching herself from the outside. Everything felt distant, muted, like she was playing a role in a life that no longer felt like hers. The worst part, she didn't even feel the pain anymore, because even pain requires feeling. She told herself she was handling it well because she wasn't breaking down, but deep down she knew something was wrong. The music she once loved sounded flat. The food she used to enjoy tasted bland. Even when she forced herself to smile, it felt like a mask, one she wasn't sure she'd ever be able to take off. This is the cruel trick of betrayal trauma. Your mind, in an attempt to protect you from overwhelming pain, shuts down all emotions, good and bad. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. But when betrayal rips through you, your thoughts become numb, your emotions become distant, and suddenly happiness feels like a foreign concept." So how do you escape the numbness? First, acknowledge it. Don't tell yourself, "I'm fine," when you know you're not. Emotional numbness is a response to deep hurt. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means your mind is trying to cope. Second, start reconnecting with your senses. Force yourself to engage with the world, even in small ways. Go outside and feel the sun on your skin. Listen to music with your eyes closed. Eat something spicy and actually focus on the taste. Your brain needs reminders that you're still alive. Third, express what you can, even if it's just through writing. If speaking feels too much, write down what you're going through. Even if you don't feel anything yet, putting words to your experience slowly starts to break the emotional freeze. Betrayal took away your ability to feel, but it won't be forever. You are still here. You are still you. The emotions will return, and when they do, you'll know that even after all of this, you are still capable of joy. But first, you have to wake yourself up from the numbness. Number 3, anxiety takes over. Sleepless nights, lost appetite, and endless restlessness. Betrayal doesn't just break your trust, it throws your entire body into survival mode. You're not just emotionally shattered, your brain and body are now operating in a state of constant panic. Your nervous system no longer knows peace. Every moment feels like a ticking time bomb. Alex never had trouble sleeping before, but ever since he found out his business partner, his so-called best friend, had been stealing from him for years, his nights have become torture. He goes to bed exhausted but lies awake for hours, replaying every conversation, every deal, every time he ignored his gut instinct. When he finally does sleep, it's restless and filled with nightmares. And when he wakes up in a cold sweat, his first thought is always the same: how could I have let this happen? Then there's Mia. She used to love food, but ever since she caught her fiancé cheating, even the thought of eating makes her nauseous. The stress has clenched her stomach into a permanent knot. She forces herself to eat a few bites of toast, but it tastes like nothing. Her friends tell her she's losing weight, but she doesn't care. What's the point of food when nothing in life feels good anymore? And on the other side of the spectrum, there's Jason. Jason drowns his pain in food. Late at night, when his thoughts won't stop racing, he turns to the only thing that gives him temporary relief: a box of pizza, a pint of ice cream, a bag of chips. He eats not because he's hungry, but because for a brief moment, it numbs the chaos in his mind. This is betrayal trauma on a physiological level. Your body doesn't understand heartbreak, it only understands danger. When you experience deep betrayal, your brain perceives it as a threat to your survival. It floods your body with cortisol, the stress hormone, making it impossible to relax. Your appetite swings between extremes. Either you eat everything in sight to self-soothe, or you lose all desire to eat because your body is too busy processing stress to care about food. Your sleep becomes fragmented, your mind races through every possible scenario, and no matter how tired you are, your brain refuses to shut down. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." But betrayal trauma makes this worse because your brain refuses to let go. It keeps replaying the pain, trying to find a way to fix what's already broken. How to regain control. You won't be able to stop the anxiety overnight, but you can start taking small steps. First, create a nighttime routine. Stop scrolling on your phone before bed. Dim the lights, play calming sounds, and do deep breathing exercises. Your brain needs signals that it's time to rest. Second, regulate your eating habits. If you're not eating, start with small nutritious meals, even just a smoothie or soup. If you're overeating, recognize that food isn't fixing the problem. Try journaling before you eat, so you can separate real hunger from emotional hunger. Third, move your body. Stress and betrayal get trapped in your system, and the only way to release them is through movement. Even a short walk can help regulate your emotions. Betrayal has already taken enough from you. Don't let it take your health too. Your body is trying to protect you, but you are not in danger anymore. You are safe, you are healing, and soon you will be stronger than ever. Number 4. Shame and self-blame. How could I be so stupid? Betrayal doesn't just make you hate the person who deceived you, it turns you against yourself. You don't just feel hurt, you feel ashamed. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your brain convinces you that you should have known better. Emily had always been the smart one in her friend group. She gave great advice, spotted red flags from a mile away, until it happened to her. When she found out her boyfriend had been lying to her for months, she wasn't just heartbroken, she was humiliated. How could she, of all people, not see the signs? She replayed every moment, searching for the moment she should have realized. Her brain kept whispering, "You're not the victim, you're the fool." Then there's David, a successful businessman, always in control, until his most trusted employee embezzled money from him. Instead of being angry at the thief, he was furious at himself. How did he not notice? Was he too trusting? Too naive? "I should have known better," he told himself over and over. And so instead of processing the betrayal, he drowned himself in work, trying to prove that he was still capable, still powerful. But deep down, the shame ate away at him. This is the cruel nature of betrayal trauma. It makes you feel complicit in your own suffering. Instead of blaming the person who hurt you, you turn inward. You tell yourself that you were weak, blind, naive. You start believing that if you had just been smarter, stronger, more cautious, this never would have happened. But here's the truth. Trusting someone is not a weakness. Being deceived does not make you foolish. It proves that they were deceptive. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Hindsight is 20/20, but at the time, you believed what you were shown. That doesn't make you stupid. That makes you human. How to stop blaming yourself? The first step is recognizing that trust is not a mistake. Misusing trust is. You trusted someone because they made you believe they were trustworthy. That's on them, not you. Second, stop replaying the past like a detective trying to crack a case. The signs might be obvious now, but at the time, you were acting with the information you had. Third, speak to yourself the way you would speak to a friend. If your best friend came to you saying, "I was betrayed and I feel like an idiot," would you tell them they deserved it? No, you'd remind them of their worth. Give yourself that same kindness. You were not stupid. You were real, you were honest, and you gave someone the chance to be good. Their failure to be worthy of that is not your shame to carry. Drop it now. The only thing you should feel ashamed of is if you let them take any more of your self-worth. And you won't. Number 5, the world won't let you forget. Everywhere you look, the pain follows you. Betrayal doesn't just happen once. It haunts you. You don't get the luxury of moving on in silence because everywhere you turn, there's something that reminds you of it. You open your phone and there it is. A random Instagram post about loyalty or a viral quote about trust being shattered. You scroll a little more, and now you're watching a movie where a character finds out they've been cheated on. You try to distract yourself, but even entertainment refuses to give you a break. Lena had finally built up the courage to go out with friends after her fiancé left her for someone else. She was doing fine until she walked into the cafe and the song that was playing was their song. Instant punch to the gut. She froze, her friends kept talking, but all she could hear was the sound of her own heartbreak echoing through every lyric. Then there's Mike. His betrayal wasn't romantic, it was professional. He poured years into a business partnership only to be stabbed in the back. He thought he could escape the reminders, but then one day he turned on the news and saw his ex-business partner being praised in an industry article. A man who had stolen from him, lied to him, was now being celebrated while Mike sat there, seething in silence. That's what makes betrayal trauma so brutal. It doesn't stay locked in the past. It follows you into the present, weaving itself into the fabric of everyday life. You're not just dealing with what happened, you're dealing with the constant, unpredictable reminders that rip the wound open again. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But when the outside world keeps throwing your pain back at you, how do you regain that power? How to stop letting the world control your healing? First, take control of your environment. Mute, block, unfollow. Whatever you need to do to limit unwanted reminders. You don't have to subject yourself to social media posts about forgiveness or news about the person who betrayed you. Second, remember that pain doesn't mean you're weak. Feeling a gut punch when something reminds you of the betrayal isn't a sign that you're not healing, it's a sign that you're human. Third, reframe the triggers. Instead of seeing reminders as fresh wounds, see them as proof that you survived. Every time you feel pain, remind yourself, I'm still standing. You can't erase the world, and you can't stop unexpected memories from hitting you, but you can decide how much power they have over you. The past doesn't control you. You control what happens next. Number 6, overreacting to the smallest things. When betrayal makes you see ghosts. Betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it rewires your brain. You're no longer the person who trusts easily, laughs freely, or takes things at face value. Every interaction now feels like a potential trap. A harmless delay in a text response? Your mind whispers, they're hiding something. Someone forgets to mention an insignificant detail? You immediately think, here we go again. Jane had been in a toxic relationship where lies became the foundation. Every promise was broken, every word was carefully crafted to deceive. After finally leaving, she told herself she was ready to move on. Then she met Ryan, a genuinely kind man who had never given her a reason to doubt him. But the first time he told her he was busy and couldn't call, she spiraled. Her heart pounded, her mind raced, and before she knew it, she was already assuming the worst. She accused him of hiding something, of being just like her ex. Ryan was confused, because he wasn't the one who had hurt her. Then there's Jake. A year ago, his business partner stole from him, leaving him bankrupt and humiliated. Now in his new job, every small mistake from a colleague feels like a betrayal waiting to happen. Someone misses a deadline, Jake immediately assumes they're irresponsible and untrustworthy. His boss gives vague feedback. He takes it as a sign that he's about to be fired. He's constantly on edge, expecting people to stab him in the back, even when there's no real threat. This is betrayal trauma at its most deceptive. Your mind convinces you that being on high alert keeps you safe, but what it really does is keep you trapped. Instead of protecting you, your trauma becomes a prison, pushing away people who actually care about you. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And this is exactly what happens after betrayal. Your mind starts seeing danger where none exists. How to stop seeing ghosts? First, recognize the pattern. The person in front of you is not your past. If they've done nothing wrong, don't punish them for someone else's mistakes. Second, pause before reacting. When suspicion creeps in, ask yourself, is this a real problem, or am I projecting my past onto the present? Third, communicate openly. Instead of making accusations, express your fears. I have trust issues because of my past, and sometimes I overthink things. People who truly care will understand. Healing doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means learning to separate the past from the present. Not everyone is here to hurt you, but if you keep treating them like they are, you might push away the very people who would never betray you. Number 7, escaping the pain, when numbing becomes an addiction. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it creates a wound so deep that your mind scrambles to escape it by any means necessary. When the pain feels unbearable, you don't want to face it. You want to drown it, bury it, outrun it. And that's when the distractions become your new addiction. For some, it's alcohol, a drink to take the edge off, then another to silence the thoughts, then another just to feel normal. Mark used to be a social drinker, but after his wife cheated on him, he found himself pouring a glass of whiskey alone at night, every night. He told himself it was just temporary, just to calm his nerves. But soon he couldn't sleep without it. For others, it's food. Emma never had an issue with eating before, but after her best friend betrayed her trust, she found comfort in binge eating. Ice cream, chips, takeout, it didn't matter. For those few moments, the pain dulled. But as soon as she finished, the guilt kicked in, and she hated herself even more. Then there's the opposite, those who lose their appetite completely. Jake, after being backstabbed in business, stopped eating almost entirely. Food became tasteless, pointless. He dropped weight. People asked if he was okay, but all he could think was, what's the point of taking care of myself when everything feels meaningless? And then there's work, the addiction that society actually rewards. Instead of drinking or eating, some throw themselves into their careers. They work 12-hour days, take on extra projects, and tell themselves they're staying productive. But in reality, they're just avoiding the silence. Because in the silence, the pain is waiting. This is betrayal trauma manifesting in its most deceptive form. It convinces you that if you stay busy enough, numb enough, distracted enough, you won't have to feel. But here's the truth. You can drown your pain in alcohol, food, work, or any other addiction, but the pain won't leave. It will just wait for you. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's the hard reality. If your coping mechanism controls you, you are not free. How to stop running? First, identify your escape. What are you using to numb yourself? Drinking, overeating, overworking, social media, constant distractions? Second, interrupt the cycle. If you always pour a drink at 9 p.m., replace that ritual with something healthier. Read, take a walk, meditate. If you binge eat when stressed, start journaling instead. Third, allow yourself to feel. The pain isn't trying to destroy you, it's trying to be acknowledged. You don't need to numb it, you need to process it. Escaping might work for a while, but eventually you will have to face what happened. And when you do, you will realize that the only way out of the pain is through it. Number 8, the loss of direction when life feels meaningless. Betrayal doesn't just take away a person, a job, or a dream. It steals the future you thought you were building. Everything you once believed in, everything that used to drive you, suddenly feels like a joke. What's the point of working hard if people will just betray you? What's the point of trusting again if it only leads to pain? Liam had spent years building his career alongside his mentor. He looked up to this man, trusted him like a second father, until one day he found out that the same mentor had been taking credit for his work, manipulating him for years. When Liam confronted him, the man shrugged it off, as if it was just business. Liam walked away from the company, but he also walked away from something bigger, his passion. The fire he once had for his career was gone. He no longer knew why he was doing anything at all. Then there's Ava. She spent a decade in a committed relationship, dreaming of a future with her partner. They planned everything together, their travels, their home, their life. Then one day she discovered the truth. He had another life, another woman. And just like that, the future she had imagined evaporated. The house, the marriage, the family, it was all an illusion. Now she wakes up every morning feeling numb, unsure of what her purpose even is anymore. This is betrayal trauma at its most devastating. It doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your sense of direction. When someone you trusted completely shatters your reality, your brain struggles to find a reason to keep moving forward. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But betrayal makes it hard to believe in anything, even yourself. How to find your way again? First, accept that your old path is gone. But that doesn't mean your journey is over. The future you envisioned might not exist anymore, but that doesn't mean you can't create a new one. Second, focus on small steps. When life feels meaningless, don't try to force yourself to find a grand purpose overnight. Just take one step. Wake up, move your body, engage in something small that brings even a moment of peace. Third, shift your mindset. Instead of asking, "What's the point?" start asking, "What else is possible?" The fact that one dream died doesn't mean your life is over. It means you now have space for something new. Betrayal might have derailed your plans, but it does not define your future. You are not lost forever. You are just in the process of discovering a new path. And this time, it will be built on a foundation that no one can take from you. Number 9, uncontrollable anger. When the rage controls you. Betrayal doesn't just wound you, it leaves behind a fire that refuses to die. You tell yourself you're fine, you try to move on, but then one small thing happens. A careless comment, a familiar place, a reminder of what was stolen from you, and suddenly you explode. Not just a little frustration, not just mild irritation, but a full-blown, uncontrollable rage that shocks even you. Ben used to be calm, easygoing, the kind of guy who rarely lost his temper. But after finding out his best friend had secretly sabotaged his career to get ahead, something inside him shifted. At first, he thought he had handled it well. He walked away, cut ties, told himself he wouldn't let it affect him. But the anger never left. It showed up in the smallest ways. A rude cashier, he snapped. Someone cut him off in traffic. His blood boiled for hours. Even in peaceful moments, he felt this undercurrent of rage, waiting for the smallest excuse to surface. Then there's Mia. She had spent years in what she thought was a happy marriage, until one day she discovered the lies, the betrayal, the secret life her husband had been hiding. She left him, tried to start fresh, but the anger followed her. When a coworker forgot to reply to her email, she lashed out. When a friend was running late for dinner, she felt an irrational fury build inside her, as if every small disappointment was proof that no one could be trusted. This is betrayal, trauma manifesting as unprocessed rage. Your mind is still holding on to the injustice, still searching for an outlet, still demanding that someone, anyone, pay for what happened to you. But the truth is, anger that isn't controlled will only burn you. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything thrown into it." And that's exactly what unresolved betrayal does. It turns everything, even the smallest annoyances, into fuel for destruction. How to regain control. First, recognize that the anger isn't about the present, it's about the past. When you find yourself reacting with more rage than a situation deserves, ask yourself, am I really mad at this? Or is this triggering something deeper? Second, find a release that isn't destructive. Rage needs an outlet, and if you don't give it one, it will find its own. Exercise, journal, scream into a pillow, punch a punching bag, whatever gets it out without harming yourself or others. Third, practice the pause. When you feel the anger building, force yourself to take a step back before reacting. Take a deep breath, count to 10, walk away if you need to. Control doesn't mean suppressing, it means channeling it into something useful. Betrayal already stole so much from you. Don't let it steal your peace, too. You have every right to be angry, but you also have the power to decide what you do with that anger. Will you let it define you? Or will you use it to rebuild something stronger? Number 10, the bottomless grief. When the life you knew no longer exists. Betrayal doesn't just take away a person, it erases the world you once believed in. You're not just grieving a relationship, a friendship, or a partnership. You're grieving the version of your life that you thought was real. One day you had security, trust, and a vision of the future. The next, it's all gone, leaving behind an emptiness that feels endless. For years, Sarah thought she had it all. A loving husband, a happy home, a predictable, safe future. She never worried about betrayal because why would she? They had plans, they had history, they had promises. And then, with one discovery, everything shattered. Suddenly, their home didn't feel like home anymore. The places they had shared now felt haunted. The future they had dreamed of was nothing but a lie. She wasn't just mourning him. She was mourning the version of herself that still believed in forever. Then there's Jake. He had spent a decade building his business with his best friend. They started from nothing, sacrificed together, envisioned their success together. And then one day, his best friend sold him out, took the company, and left Jake with nothing. The betrayal wasn't just about the money, it was about losing the belief that loyalty meant something. He sat in his now empty office, staring at the desk where they had once made plans, feeling like his entire life had been one long, cruel joke. This is the grief of betrayal, deeper than heartbreak, darker than disappointment. It's not just losing a person, it's losing certainty, losing the belief that the world is fair, that people are who they say they are, that you are safe, and in that loss, you feel like a ghost of the person you once were. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." And betrayal forces you to confront that painful truth, that what you thought was real might never have been. How to survive the grief of betrayal? First, accept that you are grieving something real. Just because the person who betrayed you was false doesn't mean your pain is. Grief is not weakness. It is proof that you loved, that you trusted, that you believed. Second, stop looking for closure from the person who hurt you. They cannot give you back what they took. The only closure you will ever get is the one you create for yourself. Third, anchor yourself in the present. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but you are here now. The more you fight reality, the more you suffer. Instead, start asking yourself, what can I rebuild? Betrayal took your past, but it does not have to take your future. The emptiness you feel is not a void. It is a space waiting to be filled. And this time, you get to decide what you put there. Number 11, hypervigilance, when trust becomes impossible. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it reprograms your brain for survival. You're no longer just living, you're scanning. Every word, every pause, every unread message becomes a potential warning sign. Your mind isn't looking for connection anymore. It's looking for threats. Anna used to be the kind of person who believed in the best in people. She gave without hesitation, trusted without suspicion. Then one day she discovered that her fiancé, the man she thought she knew better than anyone, had been living a double life. Now even the smallest things feel like red flags. If someone takes too long to reply to a text, she assumes they're lying. If a friend cancels plans last minute, she questions their loyalty. Her brain is stuck in detective mode, searching for betrayal before it happens. Then there's Daniel. After being blindsided by his business partner, he no longer trusts anyone in his new workplace. If a co-worker whispers in a meeting, he assumes they're talking about him. If his boss hesitates before answering a question, he immediately thinks he's about to be fired. He tells himself he's just being realistic, but the truth is, he's exhausted. This is hypervigilance, the feeling that you must always be on guard, always be one step ahead, always be prepared for the worst. It's your brain's way of protecting you, but the problem is, it never lets you rest. Every interaction becomes a test. Every silence feels ominous. You stop experiencing life, and instead you start investigating it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But betrayal trauma makes reacting logically almost impossible, because your brain is constantly in fight or flight mode, seeing danger even when there is none. How to escape the trap of hypervigilance? First, realize that not everyone is out to betray you. Your fear is based on the past, but not everyone in your present is the same person who hurt you. Second, challenge your thoughts. When you feel suspicion creeping in, ask yourself, is there actual evidence for this, or is this just my trauma talking? More often than not, it's the latter. Third, learn to breathe again. When hypervigilance takes over, your body tenses up, your heart races, your mind goes into overdrive. Physically grounding yourself, through breathwork, exercise, or meditation, can break the cycle. Betrayal might have taught you to be cautious, but don't let it rob you of peace. Yes, trust carefully, Yes, be discerning, but don't let fear of the past ruin the present. You deserve to live, not just survive. Number 12, healing from betrayal trauma. Step by step. Step 1, find a safe space to express your pain. Betrayal trauma is heavy, and keeping it bottled up only makes it worse. You need a place where you can speak freely, cry, rage, and repeat your story as many times as necessary. It's part of how the brain processes deep wounds. However, relying solely on friends and family can be difficult. They may become exhausted from hearing the same pain over and over. This is why therapy is essential. A professional can help you navigate the pain without the fear of burdening those around you. Step 2, accept reality and confront the pain. Betrayal is not just an emotional wound. It is a loss. Losing trust in someone you once valued is as devastating as losing your home in a fire. Everything you knew, everything you built is gone. You don't just mourn the person, you mourn the future that no longer exists. Many people will tell you to move on or stop dwelling on it, but grief has no shortcuts. You must allow yourself to feel the loss without guilt or shame. The only way past it is through it. Step 3, understand the betrayer for what they are. Many betrayers aren't just people who made a mistake. Some are deeply flawed individuals. If you were deceived by a narcissist, a sociopath, or a manipulative liar, it wasn't about you being weak. It was about them being broken. Understanding the psychology of betrayal can help you stop blaming yourself. You were not too trusting or too naive. They were too deceitful. Step 4, find the right therapy for you. Betrayal trauma rewires the brain, creating deep emotional wounds that require structured healing. Different types of therapy can help in different ways. Acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, helps you accept the painful reality without letting it control your life. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, helps you reframe the way you think about what happened so it no longer defines you. Dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, teaches emotional regulation and mindfulness, helping you regain stability. Trauma-informed therapy, crucial for those who have experienced repeated betrayal or past trauma, ensuring that healing is done in a safe and supportive way. Betrayal doesn't just break your trust in others, it can break your trust in yourself. Healing means rebuilding that trust, not by ignoring the pain, but by facing it with strength and wisdom. This pain won't last forever, but the lessons you learn from it will make you stronger than ever before. Final words, reclaiming your strength after betrayal. Betrayal trauma is not just a temporary wound. It can shape how you trust, how you see yourself, and how you navigate relationships. If left unhealed, it can control your future. But if faced head-on, it can become the turning point that makes you stronger than ever. You are not weak for trusting. You are not foolish for believing in someone. What defines you is not the betrayal itself, but how you choose to rise from it. You are not just a survivor. You are someone capable of rebuilding, of healing, and of reclaiming your own power. However, healing is not always something you can do alone. This video provides guidance and insight, but if your pain feels overwhelming, please seek professional help from a licensed therapist or counselor. There is no shame in asking for support. It is a sign of strength, not weakness. At Victory Stoic, we believe in resilience, in rebuilding from the ashes, and in forging a life that no one else can take from you. If you're ready to take control of your healing, like, share, subscribe, and comment. I choose to heal. Because your story does not end with betrayal, it begins with how you choose to rise.